Hi there and welcome to practice. My name is Jessica and today I'm going to be leading you through a yoga flow that is focused on our throat chakra. So by the end of this practice, my hope is that you'll leave the mat feeling like you are able to better express yourself. Our throat chakra is really associated with our expression of our authentic truth. So just being able to connect with who you are authentically and being able to share that and communicate that to those around you and the world, because the world wants and needs to see the authentic and true you. So all you'll need today for today's practice is your mat. I like to keep a couple of blocks handy, but it's completely optional and dependent upon your own personal practice. So without further ado, let's go ahead and begin. Come to a seated position. Close the eyes if you haven't already shut them down. And begin to bring an awareness to the breath. Just simply tune in. And I invite you to begin your practice by setting an intention. Our greatest teacher is ourselves. So what I would invite you to do is think about a question that you are seeking the answer to, particularly around the theme of self-expression as we are going through this throat chakra practice. What question would you ask of your higher self? What is it that you seek the answer to? Ask that question to yourself and allow that question to guide you through today's practice. When you're ready, slowly begin to blink the eyes open. And let's go ahead and begin. So we'll start with some neck stretches. So we'll start by bringing the chin down towards the chest. The spine remains nice and tall. And just allow gravity to take hold here. Maybe start to engage the abdominals. Roll the shoulders back. And feel a gentle stretch behind the back of your neck. Nice deep breaths here. And on your next inhale, begin to lift the head back up. Let's go ahead and take the gaze over the right shoulder, feeling a stretch now through the left side of your neck. Again, the shoulders are melting away from the ears. Shoulders are back. Chest is open, sitting nice and tall. Take one more breath here. And slowly come back to center. Let's go ahead and go to the other side now, looking over the left shoulder, stretching now through the right side of the neck. Keeping the abdominals engaged, jaws relaxed. And we're not forcing anything here. We're still in our warm-up, so just allow it to be. No need to force it. And go ahead and bring it back to center. Let's go ahead and tilt the right ear down towards the right shoulder, feeling a bit of a different stretch now through the left side. And again, just keeping the shoulders nice and soft, keeping the jaw relaxed, and just breathing through any sensations that you feel here. And inhale to come back up to center. Tilting over to the other side, the left side now. Feeling a stretch through the right side this time. Breathing here. And go ahead and return to center. Let's go ahead and take the hands and cup them over the shoulders. And we're just going to take some shoulder rolls right here, starting with small circles, drawing circles with your elbows, and slowly starting to make the circles a little bit larger with each roll, until finally maybe you can start to bring the elbows in towards one another, maybe almost touching or touching, as you continue the revolution to externally rotate the shoulder. Let's go ahead and take that in the other direction, starting with our small shoulder rolls, drawing those small circles, allowing those circles to get bigger and bigger until you're almost able to touch the elbows. And go ahead and release. Let's start now to stretch the back. So I'm going to turn to the side so that you can see what I am doing. Place the palms behind the hips and press into the mat behind you as you lift the chest up and forward. Getting a nice extension through the back. The neck stays nice and long, maybe allowing the gaze to point gently upwards, about 45 degrees, keeping the core engaged and the shoulders melting away from the ears. And go ahead and release. Let's take a counter stretch, coming forward into a forward bend. Just let the head hang heavy. Maybe shake it out a bit, yes and no. And then slowly walk the hands up to center. Take your left palm, place it on your right knee, and as you inhale, grow tall, and on your exhale, start to look over the right shoulder, coming into a seated twist. Again, we're not forcing anything here. We're simply letting the spine be. Just taking this gentle twist to begin to start to bring some movement into the spine as we warm up for our practice. And come back to center. Right palm on left knee. Inhale to elongate the spine. Exhale to look gently over the left shoulder. And just breathe here. And exhale back to center. Plant your right palm beside you. Inhale the left arm up and overhead and start to bend laterally towards the right, feeling a nice stretch through the left side of the body. You can keep your head in line with your ears like so, or you can start to look down, or just find a point where it feels comfortable. I'm feeling a nice stretch through the left side of my neck if I look down, so that feels nice. I'm going to stay here, but feel free to go wherever it is that is comfortable for you. Inhale to center, taking it to the opposite side. Keeping the sits bones nice and grounded, shoulders melting away from the ears, feeling that stretch now through the other side of the body, the right side of the body. And inhale to center. All right, let's go ahead and come onto our hands and knees, tuck the toes, and start to send the hips back, taking an active child's pose here. Now, the reason we do an active child's pose is to stretch through the toes, stretch through the arches of the feet, the ankles even, and the arms are lifted off of the mat slightly. Head is hovering off the mat as well, just to bring a little bit more engagement, a little bit more heat into the body than we might receive by doing a a rested child's pose completely on the mat. On your next inhale, begin to lift up to tabletop. And then let's go ahead and lower ourselves all the way down to the mat. Untuck the toes. And then come up into a cobra position. Making sure that we're not compressing through the lower spine. Keeping the core engaged to help protect the lower back. And exhale to release. Planting the palms beneath the shoulders, push up, and coming back to your active child's pose. Each time you come into a child's pose, I invite you to look inward. Remember the question that you asked yourself at the beginning of practice, and just see what comes up. On your next inhale, come back up, and let's go ahead and take that back down. Untuck the toes. This time, we're going to come up into Cobra. You can stay here if that's fine, or you can start to play with releasing the hands, maybe raising the feet off of the ground, coming up into Locust. Remembering to breathe here, pressing the pelvis into the mat, and exhale to release, planting the palms beneath the shoulders, come up. And then this time we're going to raise the hips, coming into our first downward facing dog. You can feel free to walk out your dog. And also keep the knees as bent as you like, being that this is our first down dog. Starting to feel a nice opening through the back side of the body. On your next inhale, start to wave forward, coming into a plank. Let's go ahead and take a chaturanga down. This time you can come up to upward facing dog and feel free to keep the cobra or locust if that works for you. Abdominals engaged to protect the lower back. And exhale to come back down to downward facing dog. Take 3 breaths here at your own pace. Begin now to lower the elbows to the floor, to your mat, coming into dolphin. So the elbows are pressing into the mat and in towards one another, pressing through the forearms and the palms. Shoulders are externally rotated here. Just breathe through any sensations that you might be feeling here. And go ahead and press back into your palms, downward facing dog. Feel free to take a child's pose here if that serves you. And we're going to wave forward to playing chaturanga. This time I invite you to come up into a bow pose. So bring the feet in. The backs of the feet are meeting your palms. Kick into your palms and come up into a bow pose. Pressing the pelvis into the mat. You might find that the breathing kind of rocks you back and forth, giving you a nice massage with the inner organs. And go ahead and release. Shoulders underneath, or palms underneath the shoulders. Lifts up through plank, downward dog. Let's go ahead and lower the knees, coming back into a child's pose. Just take a few moments here to take a few breaths, take a moment of rest, and return back to your question around the theme
of self-expression. Has anything come up for you thus far? Have you made any revelations? What teachings can you walk away with so far through your practice? All right, we're going to go ahead and inhale to come up. We're going to come up on the knees. Knees are hip distance apart. We're going to come into our camel pose now. So take the hands and bring them to the small of your back. Fingertips are facing down towards the mat. Shoulder blades are pulling in towards one another. Elbows are facing back versus splaying out towards the sides. Engage the abdominals and start to slightly tilt back. Again, we're protecting our lower back by supporting it with our hands, but also keeping the core tight and engaged here. The gaze is lifted about 45 degrees, so it's that point where the ceiling meets the wall. If a full camel is in your practice, go ahead and take it there by reaching backwards to find the heels. I'm going to go ahead and stay in a modified version. And just remember that this is your practice, so do what works for you. And wherever you are, let's go ahead and come up out of the pose, and then go ahead and sit the hips back, coming into a child's pose. I'm going to put the hands beside my calves this time. Feel free to do that, or you can have the hands outstretched as well. And just take a few breaths here. Notice any sensations arising, whether those are physical sensations, maybe emotional, and just tune into what your body is telling you. And when you're ready, go ahead and inhale to come up. And let's go ahead and take a seat. Coming into a reverse tabletop position. So go ahead and plant the feet about hips distance apart. The hands are going to plant behind the hips, shoulder width apart. And go ahead and start to press equally into the palms and the feet into the mat as you start to raise the hips. Coming into our reverse tabletop position. Really lift through the glutes and the backside of your body. Keep the core engaged. And again, our gaze is pointing that same point where the ceiling meets the wall. If you want, you can feel free to extend the legs if that's in your practice for a reverse plank position. I'm going to stay in a reverse tabletop. And go ahead and exhale to slowly bring the hips back down to the mat. Stretch the legs out in front, and we're going to take a forward fold. You can feel free to bend the knees as I'm doing, and bend from the hips. Keeping the shoulders away from the ears and a nice elongated spine here. And inhale to lift. We're going to take it down onto the mat. So go ahead and feel free to use the back of your thighs for support and roll down vertebra by vertebra all the way down to the mat. We're going to set up now for our bridge pose. So during this series now, we're going to move from bridge into shoulder stand and then plow. I just want to caution you to not look at the video.
I will walk you through the poses. It's just very important that we keep our head forward and our neck in a neutral position. We don't want to be turning to the side as we're doing these movements. So my one word of caution, just to keep the gaze pointed upward and the neck neutral. So from here, with your gaze pointed upwards, go ahead and start to feel for the back of your heels. Okay, feet are planted below the knees, about hip distance apart. Once you've found your positioning there, start to raise up the hips, and you can start to walk the shoulders in towards one another as well. You can take a grasp with the fingertips and really press up through your hips, engaging the glutes and the back of the legs, your quads and your hamstrings, excuse me. Breathing here. If you have your fingers interlaced, you can release them and then start to lower gently one vertebra at a time. Let's go ahead and take a quick counter stretch, bringing the knees in, maybe rocking from side to side if that feels nice. And go ahead and release the feet. So we're going to move into a shoulder stand here. Feel free, if you'd like, if you want to just do a modified version, you can do legs up the wall, or you can place a block underneath the hips to help elevate them. That's completely fine. If you want to move into shoulder stand, bring the knees in towards your chest, lift the hips, and start to support the lower back. Keeping the knees bent here. If you want to take a full extension of shoulder stand, you can start to lift up through the heels, almost as though you're pressing into the ceiling above you, keeping the legs engaged. I'm going to keep it in this modified version with my knees bent, but feel free to take it wherever you'd like. Take a couple breaths here. And then we're going to release into plow. So if your knees are bent, start to extend them so that your feet are now behind you, or you can feel free to keep the knees bent and almost alongside your ears. You can play with releasing the hands from the lower back, pressing into the floor beneath you. And just take a few breaths here. We're really stimulating the thyroid here, which is all linked with the throat chakra. We're going to go ahead and come out of the pose. So bring the hands back to the lower back to help support. Start to bend the knees in if they are extended. And then slowly assist yourself back down to the mat, one vertebra at a time. Extend the legs outward. We're going to take a counter pose here, taking a fish pose. So press the arms into the mat, especially through the elbows and the forearms, and start to lift yourself up almost like you're in a, you're at the beach and you're sunbathing. Your elbows are pressing into the mat almost below the shoulders, and then you're going to start to puff up the chest and extend the spine. Okay, feeling a stretch through the chest and opening in the shoulders, and keeping the gaze pointed forward. Okay, so you're probably looking at that spot in the ceiling almost right above you.
If you don't have any neck issues and you're comfortable with fish in your practice, you can start to release the head and the gaze backwards, feeling a stretch now through the front of your neck. And let's start to come out of the pose. Walk yourself back down to the mat. And then let's go ahead and just bring the knees in. Maybe circle the knees around, which will allow for a nice lower back massage. Rolling in both directions. Maybe tilt the head from side to side to release the neck. And go ahead and release the feet down to the mat and just start to windshield wiper the knees from side to side. It will help to release the lower back a bit and also bring a little bit of hip mobility as well. And then allow your knees to stay towards the right. We're going to come into a twist here. So ensure that the hips are stacked on top of one another there. You can stretch the arms out to the sides to a T position. You can bring the right hand on top of the left knee for a little bit of added weight. And then if you'd like, you can allow the gaze to point over the left shoulder there, looking towards your left hand. And we'll remain here for a few breaths. And as you do that, just consider anything that might have come up in today's practice that does not serve you. Are there any things that are maybe standing in the way of your self-expression or that may be hindering your communication? Allow those things to be wrung out of your body right now as we're in this twisted position. And then go ahead and release the palm from the knee if you have it there, and then slowly bring the knees and the gaze back to center. Let's just neutralize the hips for a brief moment before we take it to the other side. You might want to shift the hips towards the right first before you bring the knees over to the left, ensuring that the hips are stacked. Bringing the hands out to the side. You can bring your left palm on top of your right knee this time for added weight. And then allow the gaze to point over the right if that feels nice for you. Twists are an excellent way to stimulate our inner organs. It allows for fresh blood to be flushed into those organs once we release the pose. But it's also a great way to energetically flush out and release any unwanted or unneeded emotions or feelings. So I always like to encourage my students to visualize some of those unwanted thoughts to leave the body once you come out of the pose. So in terms of our throat chakra, if there's anything that is standing in the way of your truth and your being able to authentically express yourself, allow those things to just be released through this pose. And go ahead and start to release, bringing the knees back up through center, neutralizing the spine there. And we've made it to the end of our practice. So start to walk the feet out, bringing them about the same width of your mat. Allow the arms to splay open and just allow the eyes to close. And just release any control you have over the body, over the breath, over your joints. Just allow everything to just drop and sink into the mat. Allow the head to be nice and heavy. Feel the eyes sink into their sockets, cheekbones to hollow, the jaw to release. Unfurrow the brow, soften the neck, shoulders, the abdominals. Allow your hips to be heavy, relaxing the knees, the calves, the ankles, the toes. Enjoy the benefits of your practice today as you sit and breathe in silence in Shavasana. I encourage you to stay here as long as you'd like, or if you are ready to return to the present moment and to your day, you can start to bring some gentle movements into the body, wiggling the fingers, wiggling the toes, maybe rocking the head from side to side. Gently wake up the body. Take the hands overhead and give yourself a nice stretch from head to toe. And then start to roll over to your right side. As you're in this fetal position, just see this as a rebirth. So every time we show up to practice on the mat, every time we set our intention, there's always something to walk away with. There's always a subtle change, teaching or revelation even, that is discovered during our practice. So what are those discoveries? What are those revelations that you've come to today that have allowed you to grow? Take those things with you as you rebirth into the rest of your day. So slowly start to press the body away from the mat, taking a seated position, bringing the hands to heart center. Thank you so much for joining me, and especially thank yourself for showing up to the mat and for practicing today. From my heart to yours, namaste. Thank you so much for joining me in today's practice, focusing on the throat chakra. I hope that it serves you well. If you enjoyed this practice and want to continue practicing with me, I invite you to subscribe to my channel. Would love to have you as part of this community and to continue to serve you. So once again, thank you for joining me, and I look forward to seeing you on the mat again soon. Take care.